Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the FCS Prep Podcast, where I am your host, Dr. Keith Fairclough. And guys, we are wrapping it up. This is our last relationship video in the series. Not saying we won't talk about relationships in the future, but just for this series, this playlist, this is going to be the last video, right? The last one we talked about was relationship killers, right? The things that guarantee with 94% accuracy whether or not your relationship will exist. If those things exist in your relationship, there's a 94% chance your relationship will not make it, right? So if you missed that one, you can go back, check that one out. There's the little card up there. You can click on that if you want to watch that one first. But this one, I got a good name for it. So the last one was relationship killers, right? Things that destroy your relationship. This video is going to be named the relationship saviors, the things that can save and safeguard your relationship. Before we go any further, like, subscribe. It's a little too soon to comment, but if you want to, you can. But make sure you also share. Make sure this information gets out there. Share not just this video, but share the playlist as well. So for those who are getting into dating, those who are in relationships, those who want help, they want to make sure there's no missteps in their relationship. They want to make sure they're dating with intention. They want to make sure they're on the same page. Share it with those people in your life. Share with your loved ones so that they can have the best chance at having a successful relationship, whatever the relationship might look like, right? So without further ado, let's get into this. So the main points I'm going to be talking about today, except the last one, which is going to be a bonus. Main points are not my points, okay? Just going to put this out here as well. I read the book, The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work, and these are where I got those principles from. Okay, so I'm going to put a link in my bio. It's not an affiliate thing or anything like that. It's just if you guys want to get the book, it's a phenomenal book for your relationship. So that's where it comes from. Also, let me say this. This is not an exhaustive view of these points. I'm going to hit them, talk about them, describe them, and then go. In order to get an exhaustive view on these points, I really, really, really recommend you go and look up Dr. John Gottman's books and his material, where he not only goes over these 7 points, but also he has certain books that delve into them even further, right? Your relationship is probably the greatest investment you can make in your entire life. I'm going to say that one more time. Your relationship is the greatest investment that you can pour into in your entire life and gives the highest rate of return. So therefore, I strongly recommend, if you are in a relationship or thinking about getting in a relationship, I strongly recommend you invest time into reading and watching videos like this one about how to make your relationship better. Cut out all the mess and the garbage about how guys ain't nothing and girls ain't nothing and everyone's a trick and everyone's a hoe and everyone's a this and a that. Cut all that garbage out. All those pseudo experts, cut them all out. All right. The reason why I'm pulling from Dr. John Gottman is because it's research backed. It's evidence based. Right. For the last video, the 94%, that number, I didn't make that number up. They've watched 94% of the relationships that they monitored, that they watched, that they researched, failed, ended up in divorce because they had those traits in there. They had the stonewalling, the defensiveness, the contempt. They had all that in there. Whatever information you're getting to improve your marriage, to improve your relationship, make sure it's backed up with actual, real evidence. It's just like money. Real quick, I'm going to get into it. I promise I'm going to get into it. This is a little intro. I know I was going to say let's get into it, but just follow me. Think about money. I want you to think about your money. Would you give your money or listen to advice from someone and you have zero idea on whether they're actually making money off this idea or not? If I came to you and I knew nothing, and you didn't know I knew nothing about money, but I was just talking just a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, well, here's what you need to do. You need to save up all your money. Don't pay any bills for the month. Save up all your money. I want you to put it in this stock, and you're going to get this like 300% return. And then would you say, oh yeah, Keith, absolutely. Here's all my money for the month. I didn't pay any bills. Here it is. Let's put it in the stock. Or would you say, wait a second, hold on. That don't sound right. No, you got to show me something. I need some evidence that what you're saying actually works, because you're putting me at a great risk. And listening to people online with this wild relationship advice is doing the exact same thing. You're trusting someone that knows nothing about you, nothing about your relationship, has zero evidence that what they're talking about makes sense or works, and then just believing in that. Oh, men, you gotta just dominate your women. You're believing in that? Women, you need to, just be super submissive, even though he has not shown any evidence of being trustworthy. Just be submissive. And also, you're not married. Like, you're listening to this? Oh, it's okay to have sex before marriage, and that's how you got to test the waters. That's what we're believing. No evidence, no research, just people sharing their thoughts and feelings and opinions. Nah. Whatever we're listening to, guys, it's got to be backed up with something, some evidence, some success, something. Say all that to say, relationships, particularly marriage, greatest investment you could ever invest in, highest rate of return. Period. End of discussion. Highly recommend you invest in getting this education and also staying with the rest of this video and then getting the book and then continuing to move on and seek more help if you want more help as far as your relationships are concerned, which you can reach out to me for if you want to get like relationship, marriage, counseling or coaching or something along those lines. We can get you back on the right track. I am engaging and reading in a lot of these materials to make sure that I'm on point with the things that I'm telling you guys. For real this time, without any further ado, let's get into it. Step number 1, relationship savior number 1 is share your love maps. All right. And so you might be thinking, what is a love map? It's essentially you getting to know your partner. It's you getting to learn more about them. When you're taking the time to learn about your significant other, to learn about what makes them tick, to learn what they like, to learn what, they to engage in, who their friends are, what their thought process is. When you're taking that time to steadily engage and learn, that builds a closeness and that builds a strong friendship. The more you know someone, the closer you are to them. And especially, so important, especially being someone that they can trust. So taking that time, building that trust, learning about one another, that is a big way because it's the foundation. I think we talked about this in some of the other videos before of how important trust is to a relationship. That's the most important thing. I used to say communication is the most important thing. But before we can even get to the communication part, there's got to be the trust. How can I communicate openly with someone I don't trust? So, therefore, there's got to be trust. That's the foundation. And you can build trust by learning about one another, learning what makes each other tick, learning what makes them upset, learning what makes them happy, learning what makes them feel peaceful, learning what they think about whatever the topic is, and give them that open space to share. So important. So share those love maps, build those love maps. Very important. Let me also say this. You should never, ever stop trying to learn more about your significant other. There's so much depth to us as human beings. You'll never learn it all, especially because we're continuously growing, continuously learning, reading books and adding more to ourselves and adding new dimensions, and things change over time. That's the exciting part about being in a relationship, or particularly being married. Right? Because they think, it just gets boring after a while. It's the same person. It's not the same person. I promise you right now. The person you marry today is not going to be the same person in a year, and not going to be the same person in 5 years or 10 years and 20 years. And that's the beauty of it. This just came to me. I didn't even have any notes on this. This just came to me. That is the beauty of marriage, because you get to relearn this person over and over again. Right? Yes, they might stay the same at their core, their values, but the dimensions of who they become and who they are. Oh, man. Reel it in. Dr. Fairclough, reel it in. All right. Share your love maps, all right? Continue to learn about one another. Date nights are a phenomenal time for this, where you can just take time to just ask each other questions. Hey, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts about that? Or you ever considered this? Or, hey, tell me this about your childhood, or this about your whatever. Just learn about one another. The dating process doesn't stop just when you get married. It continues for the rest of your guy's life and the rest of the life of the relationship, which should be forever, or until death do us part, right? Share your love maps. Very important. Now, next thing, nurture fondness and affection. All right. So a better way for me to even think about this, or for you guys to think about it, is think of it like an emotional bank account. Your regular bank account, the more money you have in there, the more buffer you have against stuff and problems that come up, right? But the less money you have in there, the less cushion you have, the more stress you'll probably feel if something comes up. It's the exact same way in your relationship. The more love and fondness and kindness and affection that you pour into your partner, the greater your emotional bank account. The greater your emotional bank account, the more buffer you have when things come up, when frustrations come up, when they get tired. There's a buffer. Think about this. Someone who's extremely kind to you all the time, if they mess up, if they have a shortcoming, are you going to be as upset with them as if it's the same another person who's always messing up and it's always a problem? Probably not. You'll probably be like, okay, it's all right. You might be just like, daggone it, man. Like, all right, okay. Or you'd be like, hey, no problem. Don't worry about it. But if it's somebody that you're not really fond with, that you're not really close to, you're focusing on the mistakes they make all the time, then guess what? If they make one little thing, they're a minute late, something happens, they overcook something by a little bit, right? Oh, here you go again. You're always messing up. You're always doing this. You're always doing that, blah, 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 right? There's the criticism, the contempt, all that stuff pops up. They become defensive, blah, 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 whatever, right? Things go down. So build that emotional bank account by continuously nurturing fondness and appreciation and kindness for one another. And another way to look at this is what I call priming the pump. Now, this is more so for increasing the level of intimacy in your relationship if you're married. So, I guess it works in other relationships as well, but you know where I come from, where I stand on that. So, sex is for marriage. Priming the pump. You do this through every single interaction you have with your significant other all day long, from the moment they get up to the moment they go to sleep. And guess what happens when you do that? Not only do you build up that cushion, but it also makes it easier for them to want to be intimate with you. Prime the pump. Prime the pump. Good, compliments and I love yous and hey, how was your day? And looking out for one another, so on and so forth, right? A daily gratitude list for your significant other actually would help with this a lot as well, for you to maybe change your mindset. If you're someone who has a mindset that's always thinking negative about your spouse or your significant other, then maybe you need to work on finding the good in them at all times. If you struggle with that, then maybe have one of your things for your daily gratitude list being about your significant other, your spouse, and maybe the other two things about just something else that you're grateful for. The whole idea of being grateful and appreciative is really, really important in building this and nurturing this fondness, this affection, this care, this kindness for each other. Okay? Next one. All right? Let your partner influence you. This is so important, especially for men. And when I say influence you, right, it sounds kind of, okay. I personally, I'm not a huge fan, and this is nothing against, anybody, but I'm not a huge fan of the word influence because it sounds like, oh, you can't make up your own mind, or it sounds like there's like a sense of like manipulation in there. And that's not what this means, and that's not how it ever comes across or should come across to anybody. What it simply means is take time and listen to your partner and their thoughts and their feelings and their ideas. Create that safe space for each other to be open and honest and share things so they feel comfortable coming to you like, hey, I have this idea. Or you bring an idea to them and let them feel comfortable to challenge your idea. Allow them to do that. That's what it means to be influenced by our partner. Before you make a big decision, hey, let me go check with my significant other, my wife, my husband. Let me go check with them, talk with them, see what they're thinking, see what they're saying. This is critical for men because when women feel like they have absolutely no say, the whole domineering thing, it doesn't draw them closer to it. It actually makes them feel further away because it's like, I can't even talk to them. I can't even open up and share things with them. And this isn't like me downing men or anything like that, but just it tends because of the position that men are in, right? We're leaders, providers, protectors. So especially the leadership position, right? For her to trust us, we have to be able to create that open line of communication between us and our significant other, our wife. We have to be able to open up that line of communication so that she knows that, hey, I can come to him, then he'll be open to my ideas and my thoughts. Now, this does not mean you're going to agree all the time. This is not becoming a yes man. Never, ever, ever become a yes man, But what this means is that, okay, I hear your idea. This is why I think it's good. This is why I think it's not so good. This is why I think my idea is better, but it's engaging that dialogue and creating the space where that dialogue can take place. So allow your partner to influence you. And I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a reason why men and women work so well together, because of how we think, right? It's not designed to be opposites. It's designed to work together in order to further the whole. Within the whole is the relationship. So it's good to pull from one another, to talk to one another, to get each other's insights and ideas, because it's going to help the relationship overall. The next thing is solve your solvable problems. Solve your solvable problems, the ones where there are solutions. And what I'll say as far as this is concerned, you look at a problem, you see if it's solvable. It's not something that's long-standing. It's not something that's like deep-seated. It's nothing like that. We'll talk about those in a second when it comes to overcoming gridlock. But we're talking about, hey, you need to be on time more often, or whatever the case. Some things like that. And just use your basic listening skills. Listen to one another. We talked about this in other podcasts, so I'm not going to beat anyone over the head with this, but use your active listening skills. Make sure you're validating, you're understanding, and you're listening to the other person. That was kind of out of order, but whatever, right? Make sure you're communicating. You're making sure you're doing it in a way where the other person can receive the message that you're trying to convey. Very important. Using those skills, right? Listen, trying to find either a solution where it's win-win for both people, or trying to find a compromise where it's mostly win for both people, right? Remember, this is a relationship. There cannot be a zero-sum game, right? It must be, because it's an entity, right? So if one person loses, the other person loses. But if one person wins, the other person wins. So we should always be looking and striving to find those solutions where both of us can win. Okay, so that's solve your solvable problems. Next one, overcoming gridlock. Now, I'll be honest, I had a real difficult time with this one myself, because I was reading the book, multiple books, and they're like, hey, sometimes there's these problems that you just can't solve. They're perpetual, and the only thing you can do about it is just learn how to have conversations about it. And I was like, no way, because all problems have a solution, and this and that and blah, 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 right? And so I was kind of, fighting against it. But after listening to it after a while and really understanding where they were coming from and looking at my own relationship, I started realizing, like, dang, you know what? There are some long-standing things that just they're just there, right? And these are some of the things that you have to look at in the beginning of when you're dating and tell yourself, is this something that I could live with? Is this something I'm okay with for the long term? That is what you have to do in the dating process, which, if you didn't see my dating videos before, I strongly recommend you go back and watch them. I'm going to put one of them up here. This might be on the wrong side. Maybe it's over here. Whatever the card is, there's going to be one up here floating above my head, right? So if you want to stop here and go back and look at that. But the long story short, there are going to be things in our relationships that are going to be perpetual. I'll give you a perfect example. For me, I have a big problem with people staying in the shower for 20, 30, 40 minutes at a time, wasting water. I have a problem with lights being left on. I have a problem with my kids wasting food or people wasting food, period. I have a problem with a lot of these things, and it's never going to change. It's never going to change. Now, my wife, not so much. She's like, hey, 45-minute shower, whatever, it doesn't matter, lights on, it's not a big deal. Like, for her, it's just like, woo, whatever, right? Her, also not going to change. So then what do? Do we fight about it? No. We learn how to talk about it. We learn how to take the edge off of it. We learn that, okay, that's just that other person. Also, like I said before, that emotional bank account is nice and full and thick and fat, right? So it's, by doing all these things, we're learning how to just live with it and talk about it and it be okay, because it's not greatly affecting. So having those conversations and learning how we can live with it and learning how we can just deal with it and just talk about it, that is how we move through. Think of it like this. Think of it like an oyster. Explain it to my son like this. Think of it like an oyster. An oyster has an irritant in them, a piece of sand, right? And to stop the irritant, what does it do? It continuously keeps pouring in and putting this lacquer on there. And that lacquer, what that lacquer does is it makes it smooth. It's the same thing with our gridlock problems. The love and the relationship, learning how to talk about it and communicate and be nice and friendly with each other helps to cover that. It helps to wrap that so it's not as much of an irritant, right? But these are conversations we should be having. Last one. The last one is have a shared meaning. You got to create a shared meaning within your relationship, right? And this could be based off of like faith. This could be based off your values. This could be based off your morals. This could be based off you both being underdogs. This could be based off of being high achievers. Whatever you need to do, rituals, and these are things within your family. Create a shared meaning. Create team we, team us, right? Us against the world, right? Let nobody get in to this relationship. It's a protection. Very, very, very important. These shared meanings tie us together. Having and supporting each other's goals, right? Also part of this. Real big. And this can be part of the sharing the love maps, right? See, some of these connect. All these connect, but this can be part of that as well. What is your goal? What are your dreams? What are the things you're trying to achieve? How can I help you? How can I be there to support you, to help you achieve your dream and your goal? Can you imagine how great and how close that will draw you two together? Someone who cares enough about me to help me achieve the thing that I've always wanted. Someone that's with me, not just achieving the dream, but also that we're a team. We're looking out for one another. We're building one another up. Where it's us against the world. We have these strong values that we stick to and hold on to. I know for me and my wife, one of our shared meanings is our faith in God. It's a huge thing for us. Matter of fact, it's one of the things that carried us as far as it did, as we have been, right? So it's so important. So, mind you, now granted, I'm not saying this is a panacea, right? I'm not saying just have a shared meaning and that's it, but it is extremely powerful. And I'll be honest, it took me a little bit of time to truly grasp and understand what they were talking about when they were talking about a shared meaning, but that's what it is. And so we need to make sure we're creating a shared meaning within our relationship for our family. This is what we do. What is your creed? What is your motto? What is something you guys stand for? Right? What do you pass on to your kids, for your kids to pass on to the grandkids? Like that. That is what it means to have a shared meaning. So make sure that whatever relationship you have, you make sure that you guys have a shared meaning, because that's gonna be just powerful in your relationship. And the last thing, the last thing, the FCS prep bonus is treat your relationship as an entity. What do I mean by that? Right? I was thinking about this. It kind of hit me because when we're in business, we are not our business, right? We are actually separate from our business. When we think about our relationships and think of it in those terms, right? So if you think of your relationship, right, like your wife's out here, husband's out here, and there's this entity, right? Now, if this entity, like let's say if it's our business, does well, guess what? We do well. But if the business doesn't do well, guess what? We don't do well. Think of your relationship like that. If your relationship does well, if your husband, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and wife, you're doing what you're supposed to do, you guys do well. The relationship does well, so you guys do well. And not just you, but everyone connected to you. That's your children, your friends, your siblings, your parents, your community. Everybody does well when you guys do well. But if you guys don't take care of this entity, guess what? It doesn't go well for either one of you, or for your kids, or for anyone tied to you. Take care of your relationship. Treat it as an entity. Protect it at all costs from outside forces, from outside people. Take time to sit down. You can even do this when you're sharing your love maps and creating them. You can even take time. What boundaries do we want to have around a relationship? What does it look like for someone to have access to us in our inner circle? For us to share stuff with them. What do they have to do? What kind of fire do they got to walk through? How do we know we can trust people? How do we want people to treat our relationship and our marriage? What do we do if someone steps out of line when it comes to our relationship and our marriage? Again, this sense of we-ness, like it's not just, we got to protect our relationship. We got to. It is critical. I talked about this in a video a while ago in my earlier podcast about how true unconditional love has boundaries, because those boundaries protect the thing that is loved. All right. Okay, guys, I've been going on long enough. This is it. We're wrapping it up. Remember, I'm going to say it again. Your marriage is the greatest investment that you could ever make. It's the greatest thing you could ever invest in because it has the highest rate of return. And men, gentlemen, listen, they've said it and they will say it and they keep on saying it. The most important decision, business decision a man can make is who he marries. They said men who make the wrong choice in women are almost guaranteed to fail in business. I didn't want to believe it at first when things weren't so great with me and my wife because I was like, oh no. But praise God, everything's phenomenal. We're turning it around in a great, blessed way. But that's what I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? That's crazy. Because what I see now is that when I put the time and effort and energy in to building up my wife, it's not a sacrifice, it's an investment. Because why? Because I have a great return of investment through her. Because women naturally nurture. That's what an investment does. It nurtures what you give it, and then it amplifies it back out. I put in $10, I get out $100. Except for my wife, I put in all this love, care, tenderness, affection, listening, and all that. I pour that in, and I get back all this love on the other side because that's just what women do. I'm going to leave you guys with that. Listen, if you need any help in your relationships, if you need any advice, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and let me know. Also, I'm going to actually be going and doing something soon, guys. I'm going to actually be doing like open air therapy where I start answering people's questions live on Sundays. So stay tuned for that. I got to work out the logistics of that, what that's going to look like. But stay tuned. That's coming soon. Our next series coming up is for the men. Right? And listen, we're not straying from unconditional love, personal responsibility, and excellence. We're not straying from that at all. But listen, stay tuned because I have a men's group that's going to be starting in May of this year, 2024. So I want to make sure I flesh all this out so people can see what we're going to be doing. Right? So I love you all. You guys are awesome. I appreciate each and every one of you always showing up. Listen, if you need anything, please reach out. Let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I love you guys, and I'll see y'all next time.